How do you do? This is Don Burns from Niagara Falls, New York, and I'm here to tell you about a fellow named Old Doc Brown. He was just an old country doctor in that little Kentucky town. Fame and fortune had passed him by, but we never saw him frown. Yes, day by day, in his kindly way, he helped us one and all. Many patients forgot to pay, though Doc's fees were small. But old Doc Brown didn't seem to mind why he didn't even send our bills. His only ambition, it seems, was to find sure cures for aches and ills. Why, half the folks in my hometown, yes, I'm one of them too, rushed in by old Doc Brown when we made our first debut. Although he needed his dimes, and there were times when he'd receive a fee, he'd pass it on to some poor soul that needed it worse than he. So when the Depression hit our town and strained each meager purse, the scatty income of old Doc Brown just went from bad to worse. He had to sell all his furniture, while he couldn't even pay his office rent. So to an old dusty room over a livery stable Doc Brown and his satchel went. On the hitching post of the curb below, to advertise his wares, he nailed a little sign which said, "Doc Brown has moved upstairs." And he kept helping folks get well, and his heart was just pure gold. But anyone with eyes could see that Doc was getting old. And then one day, he didn't even answer when they knocked upon his door. Doc Brown was laying down, but his soul was no more. They found him there in that old black suit, and on his face was a smile of content, for the only money they found on him was a quarter and a copper cent. So we looked at his ledger, and what we found gave our hearts a pull. Beside each debtor's name, Doc had written these words, "Paid in full." Well, it looked like a potter's field for old Doc Brown, and that caused us some alarm until someone remembered the family graveyard out on the Simmons farm. Doc had brought in 6 of their children, and Simmons, he was a grateful cuss. He said Doc's been like one of the family, and he can sleep with us. Doc Brown should have had a funeral fine enough for a king. It's a ghastly joke our town was broke, and so no one could give a thing. Except Jones the undertaker. Now he did mighty well for donating an old iron casket he'd never been able to sell. Now the funeral procession, it wasn't much for pomp and grace and style, but those wagon loads of mourners, they stretched down for more than a mile. And we had a prayer as we laid him there to rest beneath the sod. This man had earned the right to be on speaking terms with God. We covered his grave with flowers, but not from the floral shops, just roses and things from folks' gardens and 1 or 2 dandelion tops. Well, the Depression had hit our town pretty hard, and each man carried a load. So folks just picked a wildflower as they passed along the road. We wanted to give Doc Brown a monument. We kind of figured we owed him one for making our town a better place and for all the good he'd done. But monuments cost money, so we did the best we could. And on his grave, we gently laid a monument of wood. We pulled up that old hitching post where Doc had nailed his sign, and we painted it white, and to all of us, suddenly it looked fine. Now the rains and snows have washed away our white trimmings of paint, and there ain't nothing left but Doc's old sign, and even that is getting faint. Still, when the southern breezes and twinkling stars caress our sweet old town, and the pale moon shines from Kentucky pines on the grave of old Doc Brown, you can still see that old hitching post where, as an answer to his prayers, he'll be telling the whole wide world, Doc Brown has moved upstairs. I'm Professor Don Burns, and that was the story of old Doc Brown.